Well, looks like it's just you and me. Oh, here comes Dylan. Well, looks like there's just three of us, and I don't want to wait too long, four of us, because I want to go get through these things in the half hour we kind of have here. So let me start out. I'm going to do what we did yesterday, but let me ask you this. Would any of you like to volunteer for me to make you a resume as an example for when I do the making a resume one? No one? You're all good?
You mean like you just do it for us?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'd have to work with you to get the information to do it, but I think it would probably be better to do it for a teenager than to do one from my perspective with, 40 plus years of work experience. Not really 40 plus years. I was working when I was 8, but
I'd do it, I guess.
okay. Well, then I might contact you later to set up a time tonight to get information from you so we can kind of make that resume then. And then
Okay.
I mean, I can change your name or whatever, but I could use your information. Have you ever had a job?
Nope.
Okay, actually that's perfect, because we'll talk about how to set up a resume without any like real work experience. Because even other teenagers who've had a job, it's not going to be like detailed work experience. Like I want to be a lawyer and I work part time at Dairy Queen. That doesn't really translate
Yeah.
very well. But I'll show you how to actually make it translate into various things that you've gotten from those things. All right,
Okay.
so first thing I'm going to start with is the Dream Vision Goals sheet that I gave you guys before we left all this. So let me pull that up here real quick. Okay, so here is the Word version of the Dream Vision Goals thing. And the first thing you'll notice that I asked for is to go over the whole process of dream, vision, and goals that I taught you how to kind of do in order to set up and plan for something that you wanted to accomplish in life. So in this one, I've already given you the dream here. The dream is having some of grandma's chocolate chip cookies. Now, if you remember, the vision is breaking that down into smaller steps. So we're not just, someday I'm going to have those chocolate chip cookies. So maybe our vision, and these are things in phases to get to that final product. So maybe phase one is go to the store and buy the ingredients. Phase two could be, mix the ingredients. Phase three, put them in the oven and bake them. That's examples of phases. They're very broad. They're just the steps to get to finally being able to sit down and eat the cookies. That's all they are. The goals are a little bit harder, and that was the next part of the assignment in here. Oops, I went a little too far. So remember, goals have to be specific. So if we said phase one was going to the store to get to the ingredients, then maybe our goals will be to by Monday, go by the bank and take out the money to go to the store. Now you'll notice that I put a deadline on that, and that's what makes a goal very specific, because if it's Tuesday and I haven't been to the bank yet, I have not met that goal. So it's very important to put that date on there. So my second goal in phase one could be go to the store Tuesday morning by 10 o'clock, which I actually try to do a couple times a week. I go in the mornings. Thank God for Eastern time over here, because I can leave the house at 5 a.m. and be over there and still go to open stores. But you put that by Tuesday morning. Well, if it's Tuesday afternoon, again, okay, I haven't met that goal. Phase two was to mix the ingredients. So one of my goals could be to put the flour, the milk, and the eggs in there by 3 p.m. My second goal could be to add the vanilla, the sugar, the chocolate chips by 3:30. And again, making chocolate chip cookies is real simple. And so I'm trying to give you just a simple task to illustrate this. I doubt you'd go into this much detail just to complete this. So it probably sounds like, well, this seems stupid. You're going to map this out and say, put the eggs, the vanilla, and the sugar. Yeah, it is stupid for something this simple, but I'm just illustrating the process here. So phase three was to bake the cookies. So maybe phase one, preheat the oven at 3 o'clock. put the cookies in the oven at 3:40 p.m. You see, but what makes them goals and specific is that I have put a specific time on them so that I can measure specifically, did I meet this goal? Did I not meet this goal? And that's all I was looking for on that. And then the second part of this was I asked you to set up your own dream, vision, and goals. So would one of you like to volunteer something that you think, oh, this is something I'd like to do something in my life? What would be your dream? Don't be shy.
We can just use my example of being a doctor that we always use.
Okay, so your dream, that's what you'd put down, is to be a doctor. And then, your phases on that might be to, what do you plan on majoring in college? Like something like biology or?
Biology or chemistry.
Okay, so let's say so I want to be a doctor. So phase one is get my degree in chemistry. And so one of your goals in that might be to apply to a college by May of next year. Your second goal might be to graduate prior to 2030. Your phase two might be apply to medical schools by, I don't know, well, I said 2030, let's say 2025. And so phase two, your goal might apply to medical schools in the fall of 2024. Search medical schools by the spring of 2023 that I'm interested in applying in, something like that. And then phase three would be to attend medical school and get to my, what do they call the internship? Residency. Get to my residency by 2029. And then, the next part would be finish my residency by 2030, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be how you would break down your own dream, vision, and goal there. And again, the dream, big pie in the sky, the vision, a little more foundation because it's the steps how to get there. But the goals are the things that you're specifically measuring to see how close am I to actually achieving this dream. And that's all I was looking for in the dream, vision, goal thing. Now, the second part of this was to write your own mission statement. And I gave you this guide here from Dave Ramsey on how to write a mission statement. And all a mission statement does is it defines what you're about, who you are, so that you can, determine, are your dreams reasonable? Are these things that you can actually or want to achieve? Because how many of you as little kids, I'm going to be a pro baseball player. Well, that's great and everything, but if you have a pro basketball player, but if you have a build like me, I was never going to be a pro basketball player. I didn't want to put in the time to develop the pro skills for someone with a build like me either. And so that, I could say, wow, that sounds great, but is that truly a dream? I have a nephew, and I don't really know him because he's my wife's brother's kid, and my wife's brother's like 30 years older than her. My wife is the second child, my father-in-law, who lives with me, actually, his second wife. So kind of a second family, and he's kind of weird, and his kids are kind of weird too. And God love him. The first and only time I've ever met him, he came to my house and I was like, so you just graduated from high school. Yeah, I don't know. What are your plans? Well, I want to be a movie star. I'm going to go to college and major in movie star. And I'm quoting him directly, major in movie star. And that's what I mean by pie in the sky type stuff. Like, I'm just gonna be a movie star. Well, no, you're not. If you sat down and looked at the dream and realistically, you're not that handsome. I mean, people ain't gonna pay you. You don't live in Hollywood. You have no plans of moving there. I mean, how realistic are these dreams here? And so this is what the mission. If he had done a mission statement, said, okay, this is who I am. This is what my skills are. He might have realized, being a movie star is probably out there. It's not something, I don't have any acting skills. I've never been in a production of anything. So that's probably not me. Again, if you want that to be you, then you're going to have to change a lot of things about yourself in your mission statement. I'm not trying to deny anybody their dreams. If he really wanted to be a movie star, well, then he'd have to start changing a lot of things about himself to say, okay, this is who I am, in writing his mission statement to determine that dream is actually something that's feasible. So I'm not saying that, that's totally out of line, that I couldn't have been an NBA star. I think I'm a little bit past that prime now, but there's nothing to say when I was in my 20s, I couldn't have been an NBA star if I had dedicated the time to really perfecting those skills. But that wasn't me. That's not what I was interested in. And so I wasn't willing to dedicate that kind of time to doing something like that. But if I'd wanted to. So we're going to use this kind of step-by-step guide to write our mission statement. And step one is your skills and abilities. And ball handling was not one of my skills. I wasn't going to list that. Footwork probably wasn't one of my better skills. I wasn't going to list that. So what were my skills? Well, I'm a pretty good planner. Relaying information, teaching information. I have, and of course, this is my opinion of myself, and hopefully you see these things because I've sat and tried to be very objective about what I think about these things. But I also feel I'm a very critical thinker. I feel like my knowledge of history is second to none. And I'm not bragging. I really am proud of that because it's one of the few things I have going for me. So these are the things I would put down for my skills and abilities. And that would kind of direct me as to, okay, so what kind of dreams can you achieve with that? The next one was, I'm sorry, when I hit the down arrow, it flies by these. So I'm going to have to go back up slowly. Who are 2 or 3 of the most significant people in your life? Well, 2 of them I'd list would be my grandparents, my grandma and grandpa Doyle, who actually raised me. My grandfather was big into politics. He was president of a state union. And he took me to a couple Democrat national conventions. I got to meet a few big presidential candidates, senators, congressmen. One of his best friends actually was Illinois Senator Paul Simon, who actually ran for president in 1984. And so, he's very important to me. My grandmother was very important to me. She happened to be a teacher as well. And so those are the 2 people I would put down. And what qualities do you remember and admire most in these people? My grandfather worked his butt off. I mean, one of his biggest bugaboos was being lazy. And so I always admired that. Even as how you're teenagers, how much you like to sleep. I was no different as a teenager. And I can remember being asleep at 8 o'clock in the morning. That was late to my grandfather. So what he would do, he was a quiet guy too. That's another thing I admired about him that I really don't have, is he would take the lawnmower and just mow the same patch of grass in front of my bedroom window for like 20 minutes until I got up and went to work. So I always admired his hard work ethic, even though I might not have shared it as a teenager at least. What qualities do I remember and admire in my grandmother? My grandmother was a perfectionist. It had to be her way. And I gave the eulogies at both my grandparents' funerals. And I said at my grandfather's that he's the man I wanted to be. I said at my grandmother's funeral that as much as I wanted to be my grandfather, I was actually my grandmother. I am her to a T. The same foibles and the same strengths, actually. So, I always admire, that she's a perfectionist. She was in charge. It had to be her way. It's kind of the way I am too. And that can be a really good strength as well, because when I have a strong vision of how I want something to be, I will take charge and make it like that. And I've had a lot of success actually when allowed to do that. So that kind of answers the question too of what I have gained from being around these people is insight into those things. So knowing those things and okay, here's who I am, here's who has influenced me, then I can write a mission statement. And a mission statement is just very short paragraph, just a few sentences to explain who I am and what I am all about. So here's some examples you can see on there. I'll maintain a positive attitude and a sense of humor in everything I do. I want to be known by my family as a caring and loving husband and father, by my business associates as a fair and honest person, and by my friends as someone they can count on. To the people who work for me and with me, I pledge my respect and will strive every day to earn their respect. Controlling all my actions is a strong sense of integrity, which I believe to be the most important character trait. So we don't know what this person put for who influenced him, but you can imagine the people who influenced him had a lot of integrity in that regard and things like that. So you kind of get a feel there. Now, I'm going to stop sharing this so I can share another screen with you. I'm going to show you my mission statement for this class because I don't know if you've ever noticed it or not, but my mission statement for this class is actually out there. So let's go here. Okay, go away. There we All right, let's see. Here's the Marshall. Let's click here for Mr. Klein's page. If you ever wanted to know about this, you go over here and teaching philosophy off the home page. And here's my mission statement about my teaching. Not my personal mission statement about my life, but my mission statement about my teaching, because I've been so ingrained, particularly in the military, they're really big about mission statements. And so I've been ingrained to create a mission statement whenever I want to go do something. Okay, why am I doing it? That's the first place I'll start. Why am I doing it? How does this fit in with me and how I see my strengths fitting in to accomplishing this? And so my mission statement for my teaching: my mission is to introduce students to the social science skills of critical analysis and professional communication, as well as personal traits necessary so as to develop in them maturity of intellect and behavior that will allow them to not only function as a member of our society, but excel and succeed in the areas they desire, thus fulfilling their dreams for the future. So if something comes up, so for example, I'll give you a great example, the coronavirus. They closed down schools. Okay, I could have very easily just said, hey, school's out, extended summer for me. And I could have, for these things, we're not required to do much actually as teachers for this. We're only required to maybe, put us together a thinking question, give you a link to a video. I do that a couple times a week. It's pretty easy peasy for me. But when I go, okay, but what's my mission? Well, my mission is to make you better critical thinkers. And I can't do that by just giving you a broad question that I'm not going to ever check your understanding of or what you actually think of. I'm not going to just give you a video link to someone talking about a period of history or some economics topic and make you do a bunch of math that you're not going to understand later anyway, and that you'll probably be bored by and tune out of. My mission is to make you think, and to prepare you for life after school. And so when I look at that mission and I look what I should be doing during the coronavirus, there is no question. I'm going to have to do the same things basically I'd be doing in the classroom, even if the students think that's a lot of work, even if I only get 5 students show up for something, because that's my mission. That's why I'm doing this. And so it wouldn't make any sense to do anything less with this. So anytime there's any kind of philosophical quandary that comes my way, the first thing I'll consider is, okay, does this meet my mission? Should I be doing this? And believe it or not, you'd be surprised how many times those types of quandaries, maybe not as big as the coronavirus, happen, where I have to question, okay, for example, if a kid doesn't turn in an assignment and he's going to fail the class, then am I meeting my mission to make them a better critical thinker if I just pass them? I have to consider a whole lot of variables there to make sure, okay, I need to be able to meet my mission. There are times where I have passed the kid because I think he's actually a pretty good critical thinker, and him retaking the class, even though he might be lazy, might not be the best thing for him. Maybe he's bored and he needs to go on and do something else. And so passing that kid would be my mission. But a kid who's never here, who never participates, then failing that kid because they missed the assignment, that's a no-brainer. They didn't develop any critical thinking. And so these kind of quandaries happen all the time, and having a mission statement to help you define in your life what you're all about when those quandaries, those life quandaries present themselves to you, will help you a lot. So any questions about the dream, vision, goal, mission statement stuff? Okay, then let me move on to the next part that we were going to do today, and that was the job application. So let me go back to this screen, and then we'll go to the... All right, so here was the online application that we were going to do together. And so I'm just going to fill this out for myself here, just in general, so you can remember what we talked about with. So this is an online job application. The first thing you want to do is read the directions carefully, because the deadline for applications Saturday, March 29th. Obviously, we're way past that. And I forgot to change the date from last year. I would have done that once we got closer to it. But let's say that we're within the time frame, because that's the first thing. If the time frame is fill it out by Tuesday, April 14th, then obviously filling it out today, Wednesday, April 15th, would be a bad idea. It would get rejected. So we're going to go last name here, Klein. Middle name, I'll just use one of them, Lee. First name, Curtis. My street address, yeah, guess what? Google will fill it in for me. So there we go. There's my personal information. I want to go through and I want to check this, make sure I've spelled everything correctly. You know, if I've got 100 applications and I'm an HR person, and I'm sure Dylan, your mom, will, you know, share this. Actually, she has shared this with me before in discussion. So, but you know, when I've got a job that pays $10 an hour and I've got 100 applicants, I don't want to spend all day for this simple job. So I'm going to start weeding people out. And I'm telling you, if you can't spell your name, if you can't spell your address correctly, you know, I live in Marshall. If you spell Marshall wrong, what an idiot. There you go. That's one down. I don't have to worry about. I'm just going to toss it in the trash can. So go through and make sure you've spelled all this stuff correctly. And then your phone number. Now, I want you to answer this for me. Is that correct? That is my phone number. That's the correct number. Did I type it correctly?
No.
No, because what do the instructions say?
Use the like parentheses around
Yes,
the area
exactly. Use the parentheses around there. And so, you know, this is, again, a lot of this job application is a test to see how well you can follow directions as an employee. And so you want to be able to do these things. So are you eligible to work in the United States? Yes. If you are under the age of 16, do you have an employment age certificate? I'm not under the age of 16. Hopefully, most of my students weren't either, because should I check yes or no? Neither. It's not applicable. I'm just going to check NA. And if this is, you know, a written thing, or if they have a space there, I would type NA, not applicable, because I'm not under age 16. Have I been convicted of a felony within the last 5 years? No. Luckily, it's been 6. That's a joke. Do I type anything down here where it says, if yes, please explain?
No.
No.
Never leave anything blank. So what I'm going to type here is
Not.
NA.
Yeah.
Because if you leave it blank, then the question becomes, all right, did they leave it blank because they missed it, or did they leave it blank because they don't need to fill it out? So it's always better just to type something there, just to be sure. The position you're applying for, let's make it simple. I'm going to apply for teacher. Days available. And this is a big bugaboo for HR people. Know the hours and the days you're available. If I click any and they schedule me third shift on a Saturday night, and I say, oh, I can't work that, I already have other plans. Well, you said on the application that this is your availability. So, you know, be sure you know your hours ahead of time. So I'm going to say any in this case. Hours available. So I'm available any day. Let's say I'm only available third shift. So just make sure that if they schedule me third shift, I go, ooh, I can't do that because I got to be up early and be at my other job or college or school or something. What date are you available to start work? Well, I got to give my employer 2 weeks notice. So let's say what's 2 weeks from today would be the 22nd to 29th. So we'll say April 29th. Education. We're going to start with the name of the school or diploma or degree you received and level and your graduation. I'm just going to pretend to be you guys, and I'm going to say, I graduated from Tri-Valley High School in May of 1990. That was a long time ago. I can remember riding the Brontosaurus to school. So there you go. I got my school. Oh, I forgot the degree, right? Got to do it. Tri-Valley High School. I got a high school diploma. If I could spell right. And then May 1919. Skills and qualifications. List any licenses, skills, training awards, or recognitions. Let's say I have a Illinois State Board of Education Type 9 teaching license. And I got an award for Best Young Author. Something like that. All right, employment history. We're going to talk about our you put your most recent employer first, because if I'm applying to be a licensed teacher, I don't want to put my Dairy Queen job here. I'm going to start out with, you know, I was a adjunct faculty at Illinois State University. 2008, 2009. And then my second employer after that, then I can get into, more what my employment was. So we'll put down U.S. Army, 90 to 2006. And then my, assistant kitchen manager, Denny's. And that was from 1986 to 1990. There you go. There's my glorious employment history. And let's say I only had those three things. What should I do with these others? Just leave them blank?
Not applicable.
Except it's not asking that, is it? We got to read the directions. It's asking for their phone number. So I'm not going to put non-applicable.
Oh.
That Illinois State University's number was 309-438-5632. The U.S. Army's number, I'll just give the main post number at Fort Irwin, was 412-687-0945. And then the number at Denny's, you got me. I know it was a Bloomington number, and I'm pretty sure it was 827. And we'll just hit 4 numbers and hope those are right. All right. So 09 U3, it's like one of those old 40s commercials, dial 800-62 Utah 43. All right, dates of employment. And I actually already wrote those up there and I didn't need to. So we're going to go up here and we're going to change these. So we'll go 2008, 2009. Responsibilities of position, teaching a Western civilization seminar class. Highest salary and position, it was contract, so I made $3,500 per term. Reason for leaving, contract expired. And then we would do the same things for, I'm not going to, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all this and do it again, but you get the idea here on that. So this is asking now for employment history too. So I didn't read this very carefully, did I? Because instead of the employer, it asks for their address. So we're going to say Illinois State University is 901 North Main Street, Normal, Illinois 61761. Supervisor's name, Dr. Georgia Suvala. Phone number, email address. I put a phone number. I should have put an email address. gsuvala@ilstu.edu. And then their position title, department chair. And the dates of employment I got right. My responsibilities, previous salary, $43,500 per term. I wish. That would have been nice. And then we're going to list the same things for employer number 2, employer number 3. May we contact your present employer? Sure, why not? And then references. Remember, what types of references were there? Do you remember? There's 2 types.
Human references.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm going to list my dog as a reference. So I think all my references will most likely be human references. Remember, there was personal references and professional references. And you want at least one of each. And then the third one will be whatever, depends on your work history. For example, for a teenager with limited work history, you're probably going to have 2 personal references and 1 professional reference. And if you have never had a job like Ben, what do you list for a professional reference? Well, have you ever done any volunteer work for your church, Ben?
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. You've done some work, haven't you? And that person can attest, because remember, a professional reference is someone who can attest to your work ethic. A personal reference is someone who can attest to your character. And so if you've done volunteer work, you've done work. And you can list, the person who was in charge of the volunteering there or something in your professional references, even though you never got a paycheck from them, so to say. You can list, if you're a student, let's say you've never done any volunteer work, you don't belong to a church or any organization like that. Well, you've done work in class, you can list your teachers as a professional reference. And then maybe your pastor. Don't ever use family members as references, because family members are biased. They're going to speak, if you list your mom as a reference, I'm not going to call your mom and her go, he's horrible, he's a lazy bum, I wouldn't hire him. She's going to talk glowingly about you, even if you are a lazy bum. That's why you don't list your family members as references. But certainly, if you want to list some personal references, then surely, and you can, in this case, you could list the person you volunteered for as a personal reference, but don't list them twice. But if you've already listed someone as a professional reference, then list this guy as a personal reference. You can speak to your character. So someone like your pastor, your baseball coach, or basketball coach, people like that, your track coach, those kinds of people you can list as references as a teenager. So we're going to get the reference. We're going to put their name, their title. So if I'm going to use my baseball coach, it's going to be baseball coach as their title. Their address. For a professional reference, you always want to use the business address, or in the case if you're using your church, pastor who is in charge of your volunteering, use the church address. For your personal references, you can use their home address or their business address. And same with their phone numbers. If it's personal address, or personal phone number. If it's professional, the business phone number. And then the same thing with the email addresses. If they have a personal email address, if they're a personal reference, a business email address, if they're a professional reference. And then we'll do that for each of those three. And then certification of complete and factual information by affixing my personal email address below. I'm certifying that the information contained in this online submission. I understand that false information may be grounds for not hiring me or for immediate termination. So if they're asking just for your email address, which a lot of them do, make sure you put it correctly. Otherwise, if they try to email you later, it will, bounce back, and then they'll just discard your application. And make sure you've told the truth on your application. If you lie on your application, let's say you get the job, you've been working there for 2 years, and they're like, oh, we need someone who speaks Spanish, and you put on your application that you're fluent in Spanish as one of your skills. And they come to you and say, hey, we need you to do this since you're fluent in Spanish. You go, oh, I'm not really fluent in Spanish. They can still fire you with cause, which means you don't get unemployment or anything, even if it's been 2-3 years down the road. So don't lie on your application. It actually is a legal document, and they could even sue you for fraud later if they hired you based on what was on that document, which is what you're attesting to. When you sign it, you're saying everything on here is true. And then it's asking for the date of submission. So you'd put today's date. And if you were good with it, you would click submit, and off it goes into the Ethernet, and the HR person now has it. Now, the thing about online job applications for the HR person side is that a computer will go through these first. And if you have mistakes on there, or you're not matching the directions, the computer throws you out. The HR person will never see your application. So you want to make sure before you click that submit button that you have gone through and done everything absolutely correctly before that time. So any questions about the job application? Okay, then, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
So if you use a professional reference, would you use like a boss or someone that you worked with?
I would use a supervisor, someone you worked with if you're on par with it. I mean, if worst case scenario, use someone you worked with. Best case scenario, you want to use someone who is in charge of evaluating you. Because if they don't think you're a great employee, let's say that Mr. Ross doesn't like me. He thinks I'm a horrible teacher. I'm not going to use him as a reference. I might use Mr. Venters, but it will always look better if my boss, Mr. Ross or Mr. Ritchie, would give me the. So best case scenario, if you get along with your bosses, there's always going to be times where you just don't get along with your boss and you don't want to use them as a reference. Or my son's in this situation now. his boss doesn't want to lose him, just wants to use him. And so he doubts his boss will give him a good reference, even though he's a great employee and his boss acknowledges it, because he doesn't want to lose him. And so he's kind of stuck, looking for a professional reference he can use to move on to another job and career field, which he kind of really needs to do. So it's kind of a judgment call, but I would say if you can, use your supervisor.
Okay.
That was a good question, by the way. Any other questions? Okay, just a side note. I just realized that tomorrow's April 16th. I have a doctor's appointment in Peoria at noon, so which means I gotta leave here about 8:30 or 9. So I'm not going to be here to do presentations live for class tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record them, and I'll send everybody the link to what I'd be discussing tomorrow. So, and that includes the afternoon stuff. So what I think is, since I'm going to make a video for making the resume anyway, that's the video I'll share with you tomorrow, how to do the resume. And so Ben, I'll contact you later this evening to get information from you and kind of formulate a resume. And then we'll at 4 o'clock on, well, actually, I'll make a video too about the Market Watch journal entries, and I'll share both of those. And then we won't meet again until next Tuesday. So that way you're not stressed out through the whole week trying to get with me. We'll just, we'll work 3 days a week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, we'll get back together live. So any questions about that?
Nope.
All right. Well, guys, have a good weekend then. And it was great seeing you. Thank you for coming and giving me some purpose in my life. So we'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
See you, Mr. Klein.
See you later.